Tensions are soaring in Israel as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu locks horns with Chief of the General Staff of the Defense Forces, Herzi Halevi, which shows that Israel didn't recover from the aftermath of the October 7th attack. Accusations of failure strained relations between political and military leaders, and mounting public pressure deepened the crisis. These shifts within Israel's power structure are not contained, but ripple across the region, influencing ongoing conflicts and reshaping alliances. Tonight we delve into this power struggle and its impact on Israel's security and political future in the time of unprecedented turmoil. All this and more will be discussed in today's episode, so welcome to In Depth. Well, welcome back. And Daily Mail has reported on negotiations between Hamas and Israeli authorities for a potential ceasefire. Hamas is demanding extra compensation to release 11 male detainees considered soldiers alongside others in the first phase of a deal. This reportedly includes the release of Palestinian prisoners outside agreed categories. Israeli media mentioned plans to free 200 Palestinian prisoners, though specifics are stalled. Talks also involve reopening the Rafah border crossing, troop withdrawals, and civilian returns to Gaza. Amid ongoing strikes, over 45,000 people in Gaza have been killed since the conflict began, and millions face displacement in worsening winter conditions. And to provide further analysis, we're joined by Brigadier General Adel Al-Mashmoushi, strategic expert from Beirut, and Mr. Khalil Ahmed Maharim, political analyst from New York. Good evening to you both, gentlemen, and welcome to Qnews. And we start with Brigadier General Mashmoushi. How significant is the rift between Netanyahu and the military institution? Again,
the 7th of October incidents or the flood of Al-Aqsa has created major turmoil on a multitude of levels. In fact, Hamas was able to mask all preparatory phases for this military operations, and this is something that can be taught in military tactics schools. In fact, the Israeli occupation forces were taken by surprise with the magnitude of this operation, through which the Palestinians were able to penetrate through the defense front lines of Israel, which are equipped with state-of-the-art equipment and are heavily guarded. The Palestinians were able to penetrate through Israeli settlements and to take hostage a lot of Israeli nationals. This resulted in great loss for Israel, of course, and the nature of the Israeli enemy, in fact, is characterized by strict regulatory measures, security measures. And so it was very important for them to open up expansive investigations in order to identify the loopholes in their security ecosystem. in order to understand why specifically and how this took place. I'm talking about intelligence investigations, investigations on the level of the regular Israeli occupation forces, and as well investigations relating to the political regime of Israel. And this is something that Netanyahu didn't want to take place because Netanyahu has received some intelligence documents, or it is alleged that Netanyahu has received some intelligence leaked documents feeding that Hamas was preparing for a large-scale military operation against Israel, but he didn't take it seriously. And in fact, he doesn't want any kind of investigation to be opened up into this matter because this is going to prove how lenient and reckless he is in his security measures. In fact, after Sinwar has been assassinated and after some Lebanese offensives took place, Netanyahu does not find this sufficient for himself, and he is aspiring to wage all-out war in the region in order to dry up all military springs in the region in order to find himself the only presiding force in the entire region.
Right. Now, Mr. Maharim, if we build on what here the Brigadier General spoke about, what does this conflict or what does this divide reveal about Netanyahu's leadership?
I think when we come back to the history since 1948, the establishment of Israel state, I think Ben Gurion has given a kind of instruction how the things will start between both institutions, the military institution and the political institutions. Political institution depends on public election that citizen in the area has to give an opinion who are the elected leaders to represent the political institutions. But meanwhile, political institution has to rely mainly on a division of intelligence on the military institution to give an advice for the political leaders how the situation right now in the region and in the future, who are the expected enemies and how the country has to divide to defend themselves. What happened, the escalation of the unstable relation between both sides has increased since the 7th of October because it was a shock and it was a sudden to the Israeli leaders, both the military and the political. The political, represented by Benjamin Netanyahu, he is trying his much effort to push the responsibility of what happened on the 7th of October and after that military are responsible for it, while the military people are returning back the ball to the yard of Benjamin Netanyahu, that he is a political in charge and the responsibility has to be around him and his cabinet. I think for the last year and maybe 14 months now, Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to escape to the front. He doesn't want to realize that all what he has done, he did not reach the maximum capacity of ceiling of his dream that he will end Hamas, he will end Hezbollah, and so on. So he is trying as much as he can to expand the area of the fight and the time frame of the fight. He moved from Gaza to Hezbollah in Lebanon. He's trying to attack Yemen. He's trying to move to Syria as well. All these kind of efforts, it doesn't guarantee him security in the future. So I think the battle between both, it will end some kind, has to be a kind of compromise from the political side, because the military, I think, has different reasons that they give him different advices that he cannot continue like that with this kind of scenario. Otherwise, there will be a bad effect to the country, economical side and the political side. So I hope in the near future something will happen with the new administration of America since January 20th, when President Trump will take over. Maybe something will happen in the future to give a different picture, to give a kind of stability, especially what's happening in Syria now is a big question to the leader of Israel and also to the American leaders.
Indeed, raises big question marks. General Mashmoushi, if we speak about the pressure put by Netanyahu and Halevi, and does this compromise Israel's military abilities and power?
In my calibration, in all systems in the world, there is a latent conflict between the political forces and the military forces, because each one of these usually tries to control the other. And usually constitutions, in fact, put the military forces underneath the political ones. But in dictator regimes, we find that the head of the executive political authorities usually consider themselves above the military. And so we can say that Netanyahu has some aspirations to galvanize forces towards himself and to execute monopoly over the operationalization of these forces. In fact, Halevi, the General Chief of Staff, and Netanyahu had other discords with the head of the judicial system in Israel as well, and all that attests to the fact that Netanyahu considers himself the one who has the upper word in the Hebrew state. In fact, I do not think that any of these discords are going to undermine, as you're saying, the political power and military power of Israel. Because there are some small-scale ministerial councils that operationalize the decisions of the prime minister, who is Netanyahu. And so he will always have the upper word. But Netanyahu or Halevi, the General Chief of Staff, might actually have some more political aspirations, and he might have internal discord with Netanyahu because Netanyahu is convicted of a lot of corruption practices. But Netanyahu, we can say, has managed to reap positive outcomes from his perspective, of course. He was able to eradicate all military forces of Hamas and capacities of Hamas and Hezbollah. And so this quantum leap that he achieved allowed him, being Netanyahu, to impose his influence over Israel on a national scale and on the whole region in his calibration, of course. And so any factions, political factions, or military factions who do not share the same aspirations with him are definitely going to have escalating discourse with Netanyahu in the future.
What, Mr. Maharim, is Netanyahu's attempt to shift blame onto the military a kind of political maneuver for his own interests?
Absolutely, that's correct. The big dream of Netanyahu to make Israel the biggest, he is always talking about a year ago. He said in different occasions, especially in the United Nations General Assembly, in the Security Council, even in the when he visited Washington and he gave the speech in the parliament, he's always saying that Israel is going to change the Middle East. And according to the last statement, he said, we did. But unfortunately, with what's happened in the region, the expand of his dreams to make Israel the biggest with maybe a kind of assistance of different power like America and different promises from the elected President Trump, that will make the matter very difficult for him because the situation and the stability in the Middle East does not exactly consider what Benjamin Netanyahu is dreaming can be achieved. What's happening in Syria, what kind of instability in the area will never give a positive impact to Benjamin Netanyahu to continue what he is trying to achieve. I think if the advice can come to him from the American administration that he has to stop all these kind of dreams because the hatred against Israel is increasing around the world, because what's happened for the last 1 year in Gaza is not accepted by all measures. To continue like that, I don't think he cannot rely 100% with the military people. His military people are not satisfied with him. He is giving them a very tough mission in order to achieve his political assignment. I assume within the near future, something will happen to make a kind of compromise between his wishes, which he cannot achieve all, and how to be practical, getting along with the leaders of the other areas.
We have to wait and see the will, because it will be the decisive factor. Before we continue, let's have a moment to further explore the leadership crisis, Netanyahu's battle with the Israeli military institution.
The escalating conflict between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the military establishment, particularly Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi, has intensified in the aftermath of October 7th war. This discord raises critical questions about the future of Israel's security leadership and the delicate balance between political and military authority. The October 7th war, which resulted in significant casualties and detainees, has brought widespread scrutiny to Netanyahu's leadership. Polls reveal fluctuating public support for the prime minister, with many settlers expressing dissatisfaction over his handling of the crisis and negotiations for detainee releases. The situation also sparked debates about whether Halevi should resign, as his leadership faces criticism for perceived failures in military preparedness and response. Internally, this crisis threatens to weaken Israel's military cohesion and complicate strategic decisions regarding ongoing conflict in Gaza and Lebanon. Externally, it could strain Israel's diplomatic relations and military alliances, particularly as international observers closely monitor the government's stability during wartime. The deteriorating relationship between political and military authority could have far-reaching implications for Israel's future. Netanyahu's political survival hinges on his ability to navigate this turmoil effectively. The relationship between political leaders and military commanders is crucial. Any further fracturing could lead to detrimental consequences for Israel's security and governance. In summary, the potential resignation of Chief of Staff Halevi may symbolize a broader crisis of trust within Israel's leadership. Such a development could not only affect internal dynamics, but also shape international perceptions of Israel's stability and resilience during a critical period.
Well, welcome back, and let me again welcome our guests, Brigadier General Mashmoushi and Mr. Maharim. Thank you again for being with us on Q News. And General Mashmoushi, how would the feud influence Israel's broader security strategies in Gaza and Lebanon?
In my calibration, and despite my detest for all the techniques enacted by the Israeli occupation forces and the orientations of Israeli chiefs and their practices, their genocidal practices in the Gaza Strip and in Lebanon, in fact, I still believe that Netanyahu in fact, is highly skilled when it comes to seizing opportunities. He keeps on targeting his enemies, one enemy at a time. And what attests to that is his statement after the ouster of Bashar al-Assad, when he actually struck all military targets that are not really owned by the person of al-Assad, but are public property of the Syrian people. He did that relentlessly and without respite in order to demolish the military capacities of the Syrian state altogether. And I, for that matter, believe that the military capacities of Israel are not going to be influenced negatively, and the influence of Israel is not going to be weakened on the level of the Middle East. And regarding Netanyahu specifically, we know that there is some kind of rapprochement between him and the president-elect Donald Trump. And so and for that matter, we will see that with regards to the hostage subject, Netanyahu is going to further pressurize the Palestinians to be displaced from the Gaza Strip in order for Netanyahu to have full control over the Strip. And I believe that the orientations of Netanyahu and his officials, I believe that their orientations are going to be maintained and are going to revolve around one target, which is the total demolishing and eradication of all pillars of the resistance axis. And as I said yesterday, Netanyahu objectively has been maneuvering and playing his game successfully, despite my total and utter detest and loathing for his practices.
Clear, General Mashmoushi. Briefly, Mr. Maharim, and can the Israeli army maintain its operational focus amid such political interference from Netanyahu?
I think it's a difficult question to be answered, but Netanyahu appetite is very open, especially according to him. He feels like he achieved almost what he is dreaming, and the local circumstances and the environment are giving him a platform to do what he is doing. What happened in Syria, for instance, give him an easy platform to move around different more land to add it to the Golan, which is occupied years ago. Plus, he attacked a couple of hours or a couple of days ago Yemen. His intention also to do something with Iran. I think he is using the absence of effective administration. Biden is leaving, and Trump is about to come on the 20th of January. So, according to him, I think he feels like he is powerful, and he can do within all these kind of circumstances something can be recognized to him. But I think at the end of the story, he has to pay the price.
Remains to be seen. That was Brigadier General Adel El-Mashmoushi, strategic expert from Beirut, and Mr. Ahmed Muharrem, political analyst from New York. We thank you both, gentlemen, for being with us and for your insights. And I guess that brings us to the end of today's episode of In Depth. Many thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more updates on Qnews.